Whoops. Folks, if you're tuning in to this live stream, I'll probably keep it pretty brief here, but I just went live with Austin from Texas Cannabis Collective. You can find them at txcannaco.com. That's txcannaco.com. And I ended I tried to end the broadcast by showing a clip. In case you missed the broadcast, I'll have it linked in the show notes or in the video description for this. I don't know that I will. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with this. This is some of the things that happen when you do a show live. Sometimes you just have little mistakes like that. Well, in case you hadn't seen this episode yet, I'll just show a brief clip from the press conference that we watched. And you'll see in this video that I'm displaying on my screen right now. Let's make it full screen here, and let's skip ahead a little bit. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick had a variety of hemp products or cannabis products on this desk, and a lot of people have been asking, well, what did he do with those products after the fact? And I intended to end my last broadcast with showing exactly that. Before I do that, I'm just going to play a few short clips that we featured in the last episode in case you didn't see them. And then I'll end this broadcast. I'll actually end this broadcast this time with showing what he did with those products. So first, I'll show you some of the rhetoric that was used with regard to these products. Here's one clip.
These are bad actors. These are people who want to kill your kids, and they don't give a damn.
All right, here's some more from Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
The reason we're banning all of these THC products because they can be deadly for children, adults of any age.
And here's one that I meant to include. Somebody just commented and said, "Greetings, fellow reschedulers. I take offense to that. Some cat on the internet. I'm a descheduler." I'm just trying to make you laugh. Happy Saturday. Here's a clip that I meant to play on the broadcast. So if you are tuning into this after the fact, maybe we've got some discussion here because I see some comments coming in. But here's one that really stood out to me. This is from law enforcement.
When I first got into law enforcement, we worried about lots of different drugs, but over the last, say, 10 years, we used to really worry about the cocaine out of Colombia or the methamphetamine out of Mexico. I now worry about the baked goods coming out of California and the candy coming out of Colorado.
All right. He is now worried about the baked goods and candy coming out of Colorado. So we will play that clip that I meant to play in just a moment here, but I wanted to acknowledge this comment. They said, "This press conference just makes me think we have really forgotten the patients that got the movement to where it is today. Now that the patients are not the focus, it is easy to repeal progress." Somebody else said, "Stop arresting people for pot, period." Amen to that. Amen to that, some cat on the internet. I totally agree. And, Genetic Memory Farms, I saw a comment that you made on the last stream, but I wasn't able to. I just didn't feel like I had the time to really acknowledge it. You said something you referenced a comment that cannabis industry lawyer Tom Howard has made in the past. I believe I've seen him make some of those comments. And in case people haven't seen, Tom has been on the show in the past, and it's the idea. He's not alone in saying this. I've had other CEOs of cannabis companies say that they're concerned that what's happening with hemp could basically revert the progress that has been made with cannabis. And I see where they're coming from with that. I think when you say that, what you might be, and I don't know if you realize it, and I don't think people intend it, but when people say something like that, basically allowing cannabis to be sold like alcohol and cigarettes will lead to like a whiplash that will undo all the progress. I think what's underhandedly being said in that, and I don't think people mean this, but this is just what I take away from those comments, is that cannabis is not safe enough basically to be sold like alcohol and tobacco. If the fear is that by allowing that to happen, that we will, somehow undo all the progress. I just, I don't know. I understand the concern there. I just don't believe that it would lead to that. And in fact, I think it's sort of a like slippery slope logic because it I just think it's going to be fine. Cannabis, it has basically been sold pretty openly. Well, I wouldn't say pretty openly. That's inaccurate. It's been sold without control for as long as it's been sold. And there's never been any problems. So I don't think that just because it's federally legal now that all of a sudden the slope would become slippery. I don't know. And I want to reiterate, I understand the concern. It just doesn't resonate with me because I don't believe that the sky will fall with sort of like an open approach like that to cannabis. Will there be some adjustment needed? Absolutely. But I think, I view it as, the way that normalization of alcohol is played out. So, for example, when you walk into a liquor store, and this is an analogy you'll hear a lot, so forgive me, but when you walk into a liquor store, most people don't seek out the highest alcohol content. They're not going and reaching for the Everclear. Why? Because we're kind of like taught in many different ways that that's just not the way to go. Setting aside the fact that Everclear can be really hard to drink, people just don't purchase that way. And I think it's because culturally it's been open and accessible for so long that it's basically just passed down that like you want to start with beer or maybe some shots, but you don't just grab the handle of Everclear. Um, but I digress. These are all of my like personal takes on the subject. I wanted to keep this short because again, the last broadcast ended a bit prematurely. I intended to end the show with a clip of what Dan Patrick did with those hemp products. Once again, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll have a link to the last broadcast we did so that you can watch the actual takes from a boots on the ground perspective from Texas. And they discuss kind of how they see this playing out, how this has played out so far. And obviously I think their perspective carries more weight than mine because I'm not from Texas. So, they have more insights onto actually what has gone down. But yeah, if you're wondering, where did all of those products go that we saw on this table that I'm about to show on my screen again? What did he do with these products, folks? I want to wish you a happy Saturday, and I'll give you that answer right here, right now. Fingers crossed it works this time. Here we go.
As I promised at the press conference, we'll take all of this THC that's been poisoning kids and adults from these stores, turn it over to the police, to our great team of state police, state troopers. Here you go, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's all yours.
Thank you.
All right, yes, sir.